11 approach, Air Force 2700.
Air Force 2700, traffic is 9 o'clock, 1 mile at 13,200, 227, report them in sight.
Hello pilots, welcome back to Flight 108, Around the World Airlines. The flight last night got cut off unexpectedly at about this point, so I wanted to pick up the live stream, and this also becomes an episode on the channel, so this should be a fairly good representation of, continuing last night. A couple minor differences is when it came to the flight plan, I just did a direct GPS this time, where last time I had done 4 towers. I had some issues with the position. When I went to start back up this morning with air hauler, it wouldn't recognize the taxi, so it's been about an hour and a half getting back to this point since I started this morning. But we should be pretty close to where we were yesterday. We've got 94 nautical miles left to go. We should be getting descent instructions sometime soon. And I have no idea of the weather, so maybe we can pause this for a second and just come into the active sky next. Now last night I think we had an overcast at 1,000 feet, but if we come right here and type in VIDP for Delhi International Airport, we can see, okay, so it looks like our conditions may have improved a little bit since we have scattered at 4,000, which is a little unfortunate. Might have been a more exciting landing if it was only at 1,000 feet. I don't even know if we would have been able to land because the runway's at 770, so there was a lot of cloud cover. Let's get back into the game. Now what I did do in an attempt to get things working again was to verify my Steam cache. You go to your local files, if you know how to do it, you go to your game library and then go on properties, and you'll see something called local files. Oh, there we go. So we're getting some instructions. So let's turn left.
Turn left, heading 280, expect vectors ILS, runway
So we're going to go to nav. We're going to switch over from nav to heading here. And I'll explain what I did. But anyway, yeah, verified the game cache files, and it changed like 8,000 of them. So I'm hoping that's not going to cause some other kind of a problem. In the meantime, let me come over to this kneeboard briefing. Let's make this as wide as it can go.
Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo, descend and maintain 14,000.
Said VGZR. We can worry about that later. Let's get the descent started so she doesn't start yelling at us. And since last night, if you remember, or if you watched it, we were a little bit behind the 8 ball on this, so
Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo,
I
Romeo,
did copy. Just talking.
maintain 14,000. Romeo,
So let's
Echo,
get this
Victor,
back
Echo,
down to
Romeo.
14,000. Drop off on our throttles a bit while we do it. 10 or 12 is usually a good. Oops, too far. There we go. Altitude select. Alright, so our heading is 280, and we should be in good shape. Let's do the nav source over to nav 1 and go back to our kneeboard briefing.
Turn left, heading
Let's see if we can't find the ILS frequency.
Turn left, heading
Wait a second
175.
here.
Air Force 2700.
Runway 10, okay. 109.5. So come down to here and put our nav or VOR1, they call it here, on 109.5. And there we go. So we have that programmed in. Good. Alright, so runway heading, we're going to put the course on the runway heading of 104.
Turn left, heading 140. Air Force 2700.
So now we have our course set. Looks like we're going to have to fly past the airport and loop around. And it's okay, we got plenty of fuel. So let's close this guy. And we're descending nicely, speeds at good amount. Just about right. Anything else? Let's get. By the way, for those of you that didn't see the last episode, I found this neat PDF kneeboard. I'm hoping that's not what caused me the problem. But it allows you to open any PDF document. So here is the checklist that I've been using. And you guys should be able to see that right on stream, which is kind of cool. So we want to get to climb, cruise. We did that. I'm not going to worry about the holding pattern. They don't put me in one. I wouldn't know how to get into one right at this moment anyway. So now they're talking about how to descend. So here's set and press altitude select, which we did. So we set it to 1400. They are saying, pitch wheel, which is the, vertical speed. So we hit the VS and then got our vertical speed down to 1800. So, or 1800. Yeah, it's the same thing. Power level, 230. So like I said, if you put that around, we're up to 13 here, but if you get that around, 10 to 12, it's usually a nice descent path, I've learned. Make sure our altimeter's set. I do wish when they started giving you some of these instructions, they would give you an altimeter reading, and it would also be cool if you could, request it. I know pilots request it at times. You can't. So what I'll do is go on to Active Sky Next and get the current active weather, and we'll get the barometric pressure. It didn't change too much while we were fast forwarding. So it's now 29.74. So I'll close this and we'll. Oops. Yeah, I don't like the way that it resets. If you hit the center of this dial, you got to push off to the side here, or else it does that. But you can see right down here we got 29.74. We'll change the backup one as well. I'm not sure we really had to use this. So we're down to about 19,000 feet. They're saying at 50 nautical miles, or when we get below 10,000 feet, we got another couple checklists to take care of. And basically here they're saying once below 10,000, start slowing down. Make sure your altimeters are set. Turn on your external lights, seatbelt signs, and ice protection. We've had the ice protection on, so we'll leave it on at that point. There are some clouds around. What's the temperature outside? It's -4, so it's borderline as to whether or not we would even have ice issues. And as we descend, I'm sure it'll get a bit warmer. I think it's quite warm. Let's see. Let's do the add-ons again. And closest weather station, why not? What's the temperature? 35 degrees Celsius. So I doubt ice is going to be a significant issue here shortly. 35. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but I guess that's the tropics, right? So far so good. I think we've made it further than we did the last time. I'm not sure. My biggest and most prime suspect as to the crash last night is the Traffic 360 from Just Flight. I don't know that. It's just a speculation, but it's, I've had a few little issues. If you watch Flight 107, you'll know that I didn't get proper clearances for some reason. Like when they didn't get the proper vectors to land until I reset the IFR clearance. So I was just about to land, despite air traffic control kind of thing, and then tried that last thing, and it got us back on track. So we shall see what happens here. And our throttle is creeping up because we're getting a little more atmosphere, so we'll back it back down. Not in a big hurry to descend. We're down to 15,000.
155, proceed on course, climb and maintain 10,000.
Where are we looking out there? Just like they described, scattered at 10,000. So we should have a nice landing. We got ILS. Got our ILS set. Probably close this kneeboard. But yeah, I think that's really cool that you can have that stuff in. And even I did it as much as anything for, you know, you folks watching, so that you can see, you know, see the checklist I'm going through. But I think it's pretty cool in any way, just because we can, you know, I had it on another computer, but guys talk about having it on their cell phones and stuff like that. This is a way that you can have it right heads-up display kind of thing. So it's sort of convenient. I put a link in the description of the stream that should show up, and get that for yourselves. And again, like I said, I kind of hope that isn't the reason. But if you do watch the last video, I had selected, you know, I went to confirm an instruction, and then it just froze up on me. So not at all sure why. All right, so we're starting to slow down because we're at 14,000. So let's get our throttles up to. Let's go back up to 52 or so. We're still quite a ways out, 46 nautical miles. So that does mean we should have another checklist. So let's go to show kneeboard. I think there's shortcut keys. I haven't tried those yet, just because that's not that hard to open. All right, so below 50,000. They want us to put this nav pointer on, but, you know, to be honest, it would put this blue lines on here. I just as soon have the pink line, if you see what I mean. This pink line here, you know, versus the blue. I have the blue on that other screen, so it's not like I can't just look at this right here. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, that's not me. We're right at our assigned altitude, doing 230. I don't want to go too much faster. Drop that down so we don't stop increasing speed. Let's try 46. It's a little less throttle when you're at a lower altitude because you have more air, I think. Alright, so course set for ILS, which it is 104. FMS, arm approach, and tune approach. So flight management system, we're not going to use that for our approach. We'll just follow the instructions. But I would like to do a flight sometime with all that stuff. I have some learning to do. Now, as far as the MDA, I'm going to have to turn this off. This joystick gets in the way of these two gauges sometimes. So the MDA, oops, I forgot to set that on the way out. Really, we're going to be ILS, so, you know, the minimum decision height is going to be the decision height. If you guys know how that works. So we're going to land at, this would be the altitude that we need to make a decision if we were on a VFR landing, a visual landing. So you want that to be about 1,000 feet above the runway. And then if we go back over to decision height of 200 feet, which is about your minimum for an ILS approach, so I understand. Alright, so speed bug, VREF. I don't use that. I tend to use, there's a red bar in this airplane. You can't see any of them right now, but the red bar will come in at the bottom here, where it'll show us our stall speed for the aircraft. So you want to be about 15% above that, which if it's 100, which is usually between 95 and 105. So I usually try to come in at around 110. Now, if you're very heavy, that bar will go up some, and could obviously cause you some different issues. So let's go ahead with, alright, speed bug. So I'm not going to bother setting that speed bug, in other words. Ground warning system, I try to get that set. This is over here. Yeah, I try to get that set. We're going to land with 15 degrees of flaps. We don't have any real weight on the plane. You can see we have a little over 2,000 or 4,000 fuel total pounds. That's really kind of nothing for this plane. Certainly don't need a 30 degrees of flaps for that. And this plane seems to do a little better if you come in without the flaps. This plane tends to bounce down the runway, so with less flaps, I've learned it, or the right amount of flaps, it doesn't tend to take back off on you. A little easier to get to your stall speed, than with the flaps open all the way. All right, so ground warning system set, heading bug set. So what we want to do there is, we advise, as advised. So there we are. We've got it set. We're flying on heading. So this is upon receiving vector, a little behind the thing. Oops, so we do want to change this. Yeah, too high. So turn that back to on. Oops, turn that one off. So what we will do is turn this knob up. And we should hear the beeping when we get, which we already should be on the she wants us to descend now. So we'll come over here, hit vertical speed. Let's back off on the throttles, get this to 1800. Turn this down to 8,000. Let's acknowledge her instruction, his instruction. And altitude select. You want to remember that altitude select, especially if you're flying in the mountains, which this plane has, unlike some planes, you set your vertical speed, it starts descending immediately, and we're gaining a lot of speeds. Like I said, take this down to 10 or 12, and you'll slow down to a nice descent speed. Alright, so if we had passengers, now would be the time to, tell them that we're getting ready for approach. Turn the nav source to ILS, which we already did. There you go. Why is that not hovering? Showing me. There you go, nav 1. And you can tell because you're on the blue needle down here. So, there we go. And then let's do our below 10,000 feet. So we want to start slowing down to 2,000, but we will. So they want to change frequency. We will slow down as soon as we start our descent. Or finish this descent. Should be fairly soon. Alright, so now we're on Delhi approach. External lights on. So now we're below 10,000 feet. We'll turn on our ring lights, logo light. Where were we? Right up here. External lights on, seatbelts on. We don't have passengers. We'll leave our ice protection going. Now, you know what? I'm going to even just turn our ice protection off at this point. There's really no need for it. Way. We'll leave. It's not going to ice up. It's plus 13 degrees Celsius, so we should be in good shape with that. And it's only going to get warmer as we approach the ground. So now we did get our altimeter set right at 29.74. So we have our below 10,000 feet checklist done. We have the 50-mile checklist done. We have the upon receiving vectors. And what do we have to do next? This is our approach checklist. So, again, we've checked our altimeter, kind of jumped ahead there. Once we get a little bit closer here, which we're getting to be parallel to the airport, we will, once we get turned in towards the airport, we'll start going through this check sheet. So let me come into here and hide this knee board, and that ding means we're close to our altitude. And just looking around, make sure everything's set. Tend to forget and skip things on there. No warnings, so we're in good shape.
Delhi approach, Beach, Victor, Tango, Sierra,
Let's
Alpha,
get this
Sierra,
open so you guys can see where we're at relative to
Tango, Sierra, Alpha, Sierra, Delhi approach,
back
Roger,
down.
altimeter 2974.
Yeah. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. Now this is a little bit different. I'm not sure why I'm seeing this. Usually I don't have this choice. It's been up there since I started the flight, and I thought I was on. I already requested IFR clearance and all of that, so. And they certainly have given me vectors and an ILS approach. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. We haven't, even though we have the DME ILS at this airport because we have this distance here. Sometimes I like to keep this up because this is the GPS distance. Once in a while you'll see, you know, a fair difference in these. Sort of depends on, I guess it depends on the airport, where the GPS point is, obviously, versus the DME. We're in good shape. We're just waiting. So now we're perpendicular, you know, flying the downwind leg here. That's probably the airport right there, I would guess. A little hard to tell. Can we zoom in? It's like, yeah. Oh, don't move the mouse much. But yeah, that's the airport. No doubt about it. I remember seeing it on Google Maps. So if you watched the beginning of the last episode, I'd still like to know what those buildings are. We're losing a bunch of speed. Don't slow down that much. Let's bring this up to about 40. Get our speed back. You got to pay attention. This plane, you know, it's a pretty powerful plane, and you know you can lose speed and get in trouble pretty quickly. Drop below, you know, stall speed, then it cuts off your autopilot, so things start going downhill in a hurry. Not such a big deal at 8,000 feet, but when you're coming in on approach, so we want to get down. We want to get back up to about 200.
Going to 120.75, Viper Alpha Sierra Golf.
So most likely when we get to about 20 miles back out, we'll start getting turns to the right on our vectors.
Beach Victor Tango Alpha Sierra Golf, Delhi approach, squawk 3624. Squawk 3624, Beach Alpha Sierra Golf.
Some air cage.
Beach Alpha Sierra Golf, radar contact 2 miles northeast of South Dock Junction 3000, altimeter 2974.
We do have a message on our, let's get rid of this for a second, come to message, current leg extended. Okay, I've seen that before. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. Maybe that's saying that they're taking us further away for air traffic reasons. Makes sense anyhow. That up, and I'll leave this zoomed in a little more than I normally do, just so you guys can maybe see this down here. We're getting 14 miles from the runway.
Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo, descend and maintain 2,600.
Acknowledge that.
Maintain 2,600.
Go to vertical speed.
Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo.
Drop down at 1,800.
Delhi approach, Beach, Victor, Tango, Victor.
Let's cut our throttles back to 10 or 12.
2,700. Beach, Victor, Tango, Victor,
pretty good.
Lima, Delhi approach, Roger.
Let's turn this down to
2974.
2,600.
Beach, Victor, Alpha Lima, turn right, heading 035.
Altitude select.
Turn right, heading 035. Beach, Victor, Alpha Lima.
You could get, I think you can pretty easily get away with, let's slow down a little more. Just throttles, just to, I don't really need to fall quite this quickly. Well, it's not going to fall any quickly, but you know, get that speed kind of down to 200 as we get close here. Don't need to rush into things. So in other words, we'll fall at the set 1.8, but if we're speed slower, we cover less distance while we're falling.
Center on 120.75. 120.75. Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo. Center Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo is at 6,000, descending 2,600.
Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo.
Altimeter is still correct.
Altimeter 2974. Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo.
Yeah, so we're already starting to turn in. So they kind of started our last descent there a little. I'd just as soon get down there sooner. But so 20 miles out, they got us turning to the right. You should see the airport back on this display shortly. Probably get another command very shortly. We are on the VOR, though I'm not here in the... Turn that right up, yeah. Usually we hear the beeping by now.
Turn right heading 015. Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo.
Go. So this will put us perpendicular to the runway.
2,500.
2,500 feet.
Terrain. Caution.
Okay, buddy. Relax. We know what we're doing, computer. Yeah, so they do have us coming in a bit low. Like I said, the airport is at 2,600. A lot of places have you come in at 2,000. This one's going to be about 1,900, I guess. Oops, that's a notch. Stand off.
127.9er Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo.
There's a plane straight ahead of us. So we might end up getting a go around on this if that's... It's an MD-83, so it should be pretty quick.
2,600 Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo Delhi approach. Roger. Altimeter 2974.
Yeah, so I do have the traffic 360.
Contact
And that definitely changes things up as far as the amount of traffic. And
120.75 each Alpha
been pretty fun. Yeah, so he looks like hopefully he'll get ahead of us far enough. We are just getting not even perpendicular. It's like the middle of the airplane there, so we still have a little bit. And we're dropping speed too much because we're not paying attention. So let's get this back up to 40. Probably a good time to start getting our check sheet back out.
Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo, you are 19 miles west, turn right, heading 075, climb and maintain 2,600. Cleared ILS, runway 10 approach, maintain 2,600 until established on the localizer. Contact Delhi Tower on 118.1. Turn right, heading 075.
Gotta cut that off.
Delhi Tower, Romeo Echo Victor Echo Romeo is 19 miles west.
075.
Runway 10 approach.
And what I'll do is we'll switch from heading to approach once this needle starts moving here. Alright, so let's start our destination approach checklist. We want our auxiliary fuel pumps on. We want our backup or standby hydraulics on. We want auto feather on. Keep an eye on that needle. We want to slow down to about 180 knots. So let's start slowing down a bit. Okay, now we want to take our, 10 miles out. We're not quite there yet. We'll take our flaps to 5%, slow down to 160. Again, we don't have any passengers, but it would be, this is when you would notify the seat belts, which on this plane you do through here, which you can't really see too well. Hit data, cabin display, and then you can play the different things that the pilot may see. So let's close that. This plane covers some distance pretty quickly, so you definitely want to keep an eye on your speed. It's creeping down here. Can't see it for the. Let's move this up a little bit. There you go. There's our speed, 183. We'll let it keep creeping down for the moment. Oops. Let's
Make straight in, runway 10, Romeo, Echo, Victor,
We're a
Romeo.
little bit behind the 8 ball. Our needles started moving while we were talking and looking at everything else. So
Cleared to land,
probably
runway
overshoot the
10,
turn a bit.
George 645.
Hopefully not too much. Yep, we overshot it some. You can see we're now to the left of the runway. We'll get that back. And we're probably close enough to 10,000 feet. Drop back, 10,000, sorry, 10 miles. Let's drop back our speed a bit and put on 5 degrees of flaps. And altitude bug set for go around, which 2600 will be fine, I'm sure, if we end up having to go around. So we don't mind going a little slow because we don't want to catch up to that Boeing. Hopefully if we let's just knock down our speed a bit extra, give him plenty of time to land and get off the runway, or else they'll have us going around, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. Alright, 10 miles, we've got all these things pretty much done, and we're on approach, so I'm going to jump over to the next sheet. And when we're 5 miles, we want to get our taxi lights on. Yeah, where did we miss landing lights? Well, I don't think it's... I've missed it a number of times. I don't think the landing lights are on this check sheet. Landing gear down, taxi lights on. Yeah. Now let's start doing the 5 mile thing, which is to put the bleeds on minimum. We're going to put the landing lights on, and they, put the taxi lights on as well. And probably good enough to start putting the gear down. Going a little slow, but like I said, I kind of want to because to give that MD-83 a chance to get off the runway. And let the gear get down and the doors closed, and then we'll go to 15 degrees of flaps. Let's give it a little more throttle as we pick up our drag from the... We're going fine speed-wise. Once we get the flaps out. By the way, there's the red bar that I was talking about earlier. So right now, if we landed, our stall speed would be around 112 or 14. Alright, so now let's get our flaps to 15. Hit the button twice on this plane. Runway setting on the heading bug. So let's move that over. Now we're on the glide slope. Going pretty well, so we got pretty much the runway heading of 104 in case we have to switch back on a fly around. Bleeds to minimum. No. But thank you. Alright, let's get these condition levers back up to maximum. And now is when we want to make sure we get a good steady speed. We've definitely seem
1,000.
to be wanting to land on that taxiway. So we lost some speed there deliberately. Let's take this to about 18. A little more. Right, I'm going to switch. Oops, let's get that off. Let's get this autopilot off. I'm going to get rid of this knee board. Alright, we seem to be a bit laggy. Getting a little bit high. Let's back off on the throttle some. Dip down. Alright, so now at least we're in line with the runway. Here we go, we got one red light. Once we get back corrected, we'll...
500.
Yeah, let's get more throttle. See, now we're coming in too low. Okay. I like coming in a little low, to be honest. All right. Boy, I'm really moving around a lot. I don't know if it's the wind or I got something wrong set up. Oh, jeez. Maybe I'm just overreacting.
Minimums.
Jeez Louise, it's moving all over.
100. Sync rate.
50, 40, 30, 20.
Boy, that was ugly. I don't know what's going on there. Do I have something set wrong? That was bad. That was like out of control. I'm not sure why. Let's hit the brakes. Can I make this taxiway? So it looks like we're going down a ways further. Yeah, geez Louise. I don't know if that was me or... Let's just take a look here. Do I have to go all the way down because I missed that one? Let's go to weather request. Yeah, it doesn't say any winds. I don't know what was going on. I think it was just me. So I really can't get off this runway until I go all the way down the end, huh? Yeah, I'm waiting for the next taxiway, quite honestly. I tried to... Alright, here's the next taxiway. Let's take this out of flight mode. Get off of the runway here. Next guy can land. Yeah, I'm working on it, lady. Alright, let's stop here for a second. Let's put on our parking brake real quick. Let's get switched over. Let's get our check sheet back up. Let's tune to ground. Let's request taxi to the gates. And so exit runway, landing. It does that. So we'll turn off our landing lights. We'll leave the taxi lights on. Position lights to red. Taxi, we already switched the flight switch to taxi. Control lock on so we don't accidentally take off again. Flaps to 0. So we'll move them back up to 0. Auxiliary fuel pumps. Okay, I'll acknowledge. So we'll turn these back off. Ice protection, windshield off. That. Main bus tie. Yaw damper off. Yeah, so I'd like to know why I came in so rough. Now keep in mind I did, reset all those files to try to fix things. I'm wondering if that didn't have some effect. Pitot static heaters off. I'd probably do this while we were moving if I had an actual co-pilot, but I don't. So autopilot is on standby. Altitude bug, we can change that later. Let's turn off our weather radio. I keep saying that. Radar. There we go. Radar is off. Alright, so they're saying check fuel times, but I'm not too worried about that. Let's turn on progressive taxi, take off the parking brake. Let's not run over that sign. Alright, well, we made it. I'm sure we damaged the plane a fair amount with that landing. And I may... When I get done streaming here, I'll cut the stream off after we get to the gate and turn things off. I may try to land this plane again, just see if there's some kind of setup issue with one of the add-ons or something that caused me to go nuts like that. Especially in calm weather, it's just seemed very overreactive or something. I don't even know what it was doing. Maybe I'll watch the replay and see what went on.
Ground, Paul Victor Tango Foxtrot Whiskey Alpha, taxi to parking.
Paul Victor Tango Foxtrot Whiskey Alpha, taxi to General Aviation Parking. Via taxiway flight Papa Juliet.
Taxi to General Aviation Parking.
There we go. At least we landed without the thing crashing, so you know, this is kind of part 2 of the same series. Let's see. Let's turn this off. So for those of you watching now that might not know, this lets you display any PDF file in game. So pretty cool. So here's the checklist I've been doing over the last ones, and you can put whatever chart or I don't know, a picture of your kids for that matter on there if you want it, as long as it was a PDF. Which is nice. So let's shut that off for now.
Orbit 90512, playback is correct. Contact ground on 121.9 ready to taxi.
Oops. Let's do that. All the planes lined up to come in. So hopefully we'll shoot right across here without them stopping us.
Approaching 27.
Sometimes they give us instructions when you're already halfway across the stupid thing.
Orbit 90512 with India, ready to taxi IFR.
Don't see anybody there. So I imagine this is one of the world's busier airports. I forget, I was looking at the stats. It's like 70 million people a year or something.
Foxtrot Whiskey Alpha, hold position, caution other traffic.
Hold position, all Foxtrot Whiskey Alpha. Taxi,
Where are they taking us now?
10 via taxiway.
Oh yeah, look at them all lined up over there.
Romeo 3 Sierra, November 1 Papa November, orbit 90512.
Guess we don't need that up. Probably don't need this up anymore either. Turn our altitude bug down to 0. Probably turn our bleeds off. Leave that on minimum. Let's slow down for this turn. Not quite that much.
Romeo, Echo Victor, Echo Romeo, hold position, caution other traffic. Romeo, Echo Victor, Echo Romeo, continue taxi.
Okay. So where the heck do you have us going, lady?
Roger, Romeo, Echo Victor, Echo Romeo.
Rooney, Lima, Foxtrot, Papa, hold position, caution the departing Boeing 747. Hold position, Rooney, Lima, Foxtrot, Papa.
So you have us going back across this runway? Alright, well, I guess we'll do that then. Oh yeah, look at them all lined up on the ground over there. That's pretty cool. So with the Traffic 360, I haven't, you know, I've been hitting whatever airports I hit. I forget, I don't think I had this for Tokyo. I'm kind of forgetting that. No, I did put it in Tokyo, but we might have had a time that wasn't quite so busy. Alright, let's see if we can get back across this runway before somebody needs to take off. Like I said, I'm not sure if they expect me to go slower than I tend to taxi because I'm impatient and it's
Approaching 09. Approaching 09. Approaching 09.
Alright, so we seem to be getting across. There's another plane on that next runway. I hope that she tells us to stop if he starts taking off. I mean, she should be warning us now, you would even think, like, you know, hey dummy, don't go across the next runway. Is he moving? No, he's not moving yet. He seems to just be sitting there.
Foxtrot Whiskey Alpha, continue taxi. Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo,
Yep, there you
Romeo,
go.
hold position. Caution, the Javelin Dash 8 on final.
Oh, look, we had another. Is that the Mooney ahead of us?
Whiskey Alpha.
He just disappeared. I thought he was right ahead of us a second ago. We must be seeing ghosts. It says Dash 8 on final. But yet at the same time...
Victor, Echo, Romeo. Acknowledge last
Okay.
transmission.
Hold position, Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo.
Approaching 10.
Alright. Yep, there he is. Oops. This plane will go backwards, which is actually kind of convenient. With the reverse thrust, that you can back up and maneuver this plane around even without a pushback. Let's see, let's get out of the airplane for a second. There we go. Probably have a better view of him landing. Pretty cool. So that's another de Havilland Dash 8. Let's see what the paint scheme is on this one. He's landing in the
6079er, ready to go.
ahead of us.
IFR clearance to flight for.
Landed in the grass. So I'm wondering if that is not something that was like an issue when I reset those files. That was working fine. That could be airport to airport. I have, you know, certainly the possibility for some mod conflicts there.
Cleared to flight for airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain 6000. Departure at 127.9er, squawk 7563.
Event 6079er, readback is correct. Contact ground
Here.
at 121.9er when ready to taxi.
What that? Somebody, let's go. Let's creep on up to the line here. Even though we would get hit. We got another one. Let's just take a look at.
Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo. Hold position. Caution, the Boeing
Yeah.
737 on final.
And then after him, we got this one, and then we got this one.
Kelly, Brown, Eva,
It's like
6079er,
being at Detroit's
Whiskey is
airport.
ready to taxi IFR.
Let's see how this guy lands. Probably gonna have the same issue, I would guess. Looks like he's gonna fly right into us.
Romeo 3 Sierra, November 1 Papa, November. Contact tower on 118.1 when ready.
Hold position, Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo. Taxi, full short runway 10, via taxiway Quebec, Romeo, Romeo 3 Sierra, November 1 Papa, November. Eva 6079er. Kelly, ground, orbit 6017, taxi to parking.
Orbit 6017, taxi to general aviation parking via taxiway Lima, Papa, Juliet.
Taxiing to general aviation parking using taxiway Lima, Papa, Juliet. Orbit 6017.
So let's see if this guy lands any better. See, they're hitting the end of the runway. Where are they? No. I mean, it kind of looks good, but then it's just not. You know, he's flying down the grass there, and then he disappears into the hill. Alright, so let us cross. I think I might cross despite her instructions. If she doesn't let me go now. Yeah, you know what? not waiting all day for this. Let's just hurry on across. She may yell at me, but enough is enough. We got plenty of time. Scoot
Romeo,
across there.
Echo, Victor,
Yeah,
Echo,
look,
Romeo.
continue taxi. After all that. Look at them lined up. Is that, or are they? No, they're in parking. Sorry. That's a lot of planes around here, isn't it?
Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo.
Oh.
Did you hear my last transmission?
Yes, I did.
Roger, Romeo, Echo, Victor, Echo, Romeo.
Alright, well, just about done. Get over to this gate, get her shut down. Yeah, so if you do put a traffic, like traffic 360 or another traffic thing, I would have to say, you know, oops. Be prepared to sit around and wait at times, because, you know, especially if you turn the traffic up. Now, I think you can go right into regular flight sim and turn it up. But... And the other thing to say is it can clog up the radio quite a bit more than if you don't have all that turned on. But hey, it certainly adds realism to the whole thing. With all these different airplanes around, and again, I'm not sure if that's. It seems like that could be causing me some problems. Big plane in front of us. What is that thing? Slow down, slow down. Right, slow down. I'm going to take off again. Is he moving? Yeah, I think he is. We lost our progressive taxi. Go without the progressive taxi. I do want to learn that at some point. So why don't we just find an empty gate of taxiing for a bit. Slow back down a tad. Yeah, we'll just find some place that nobody's at. Right, slow down, slow down, slow down. Spot. I think that's a spot anyway, isn't it? No, not really. Where are we? I don't know where to park. Is there more gates over this way? I don't know, maybe we'll just go park in this parking lot over here. Let the people walk over to the terminal. Well, we don't have passengers anyway, so... Oh, look, we got our progressive taxi back somehow. Oh, yeah, well, we're kind of went the right way, sort of, anyhow. Good. Yeah, see, now we lost the progressive taxi again. Get it back and lose it. Hey, we found where we're supposed to go. It's a bit of a miracle. Go. Alright, let's hit the parking brake and let's do our final bits of this checklist. Oops, don't hide it, it's already hidden. Let's show it. So, arrival at gate, taxi lights off. Parking brake we just set. We got our control lock on. Engines, we'll put them down to start and feather. Let them cool off a bit before you shut them off. And we want to, well, we already did turn off the auxiliary pumps at that point. Power level to disconnect, which is basically just right where it's at. Nose steering off. I guess that makes sense. I'm not sure it's critical. Transponder, stop transponding, which is holding this button in for 2 seconds. Tough one to figure out if you're just looking for it, trying to figure it out on your own. And we want to, where are we at? Bleeds off, which already turned them off. We turn the recirculation fan off. We turn our temperature back down. Condition levers. Yeah, so they're saying turn on the APU, but we're just going to let it die down. So we'll cut off the engines. And APU, they'll say at this point, turn your generator on. We'll just run on the batteries for the last seconds of the stream here. Any collision lights off. Turn off all these lights. While we're at it, seatbelt signs off. We never turned them on. MDF to the door system. So to do that, you would come to here, then go to door. There's a button there, and that'll show that. If we hit Shift E, you'll see main exit opening, and there you go. So we have the main door open. And there we go. So if you had passengers, they'd be getting off if you had that GSX add in, and grab a cup of tea, which I don't think I'm going to have tea, but it is kind of time for some breakfast. So I am going to shut the main Baster battery off. Oh, look, he's still talking on the radio, even though there's no power. So there we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed the flight. Sorry it got broken up with a crash of the game, but it was late last night, so I didn't want to keep going for no reason. But at least it worked this time, so I don't really know. Maybe verifying that game cache in Steam helped straighten something out. It's hard for me to say. But we can come into air hauler, and let's see what damage we did to this thing. Positive. So they're saying, yeah, look at that. So we did 3 damage to the plane in that landing. Not real good, huh? So let's finish the flight monitoring. So now we're down to 89% on the plane. A couple percent aren't really my fault, because if you do a replay, if you come back to here, if you were to do a replay without closing that flight monitoring, be aware, and you're using air hauler, the replay counts against. If you did do damage, you'll get double damage the next time. So let me end this flight. And yep, let's close that. And there we are in our air hauler. So, and you can see we're in Delhi. Now they say New Delhi. I wonder what that is. Is that just a section of town? Kind of curious. Anyway, let's go to bases, and we'll open a base, and it's going to cost us $555,000. $555,000. We will open another base. Thank you. And let's zoom out. And there we go. So we've got bases. These are the flights that we've taken so far and heading around the world. And we're getting a good chunk of the way there. I would say we've made it probably halfway, huh? Can I go back out? That's as far as I can zoom. So we're at least halfway around the world, I would think. There is Indira Gandhi Airport. And what is the next step on our flight? Let's open up Chrome here and FSX Vector. So this is pretty cool. If you sign up for an account, you can always do things in here, but if you sign up, you can save it. Like, it auto logs me back in and has this around the world flight. I can also come up here and load up. Say, I'm not logged in, so it just defaulted with some cookie. But if I did log in, I can, you can save different flights, kind of plan a bunch of stuff out. And I just did this as a kind of point-to-point thing. Yeah, we got a pretty good leg in the next jump, and the next trip I'll take will be to Dubai. So, not sure how I feel about Dubai these days after watching a documentary on Saudi Arabia. I'll keep my general opinions to myself, but, I'm not a person that's filled with hate for anyone. And don't appreciate people who are or treat people poorly. So, in any event, we will head to Dubai next time. And like I said before, I hope you guys enjoy the flight. And, let me know if you have any questions or comments. This video will go up, and I'll try to get to any of them. Not sure when I'll get to this next flight, but depends on how real life stuff goes. So take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.